Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. I'm just going to do a quick video for you to just give you an insight to what I call the anatomy of the establishment, using the eagle as a metaphor. I've been doing this. I've been talking about this in a bunch of my talks recently, but everyone said, Shiva, why don't you just do a quick video, because it can really help everyone understand some of the dynamics that we're talking about. Just make sure everyone's on Instagram. Everyone cool over there? Good. So wait for people to join, but it's going to be a very, very quick talk, but it's going to give you an understanding what I call the anatomy of the establishment. Good to have you. Just stepping back before I draw this out. Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. You want to just think about the fact that the central concept of the way that the establishment attempts to keep us connected to them is to create what I call a duality. Okay, a left and a right, or black and white, or pro and anti. And that's really been the dialectic that they create. And as long as you have that pro and anti, left and right, Republican and Democrat, and even whatever the party is, because they typically fall into one of them, we'll talk about it, you have the ability to manipulate people always back into the establishment, because you're forced to choose one side or the other side, which are essentially two heads of the same coin, which we've talked about that. In the teachings that we talk about at VA Shiva, we want to take people out of this dialectic, but into a systems approach. And the systems approach gets us out of this left-right paradigm, gets us out of this notion of Republican, Democrat, but it focuses us on trusting ourselves, going into our communities, and building a bottoms-up movement. So I think someone said the tribe is growing worldwide. Excellent. That's true. And what the tribe we're talking about is our movement for truth, freedom, and health. And I'll play the video at the end, but everyone knows on vashiva.com, all of you have the opportunity to support and participate and contribute and become a part of this movement. And the movement really has three components. It has the educational piece. It has a community piece where we have our own ability for you to connect independent of the big tech. And then finally, it has the ability for you to get activated on the ground. So that's at vashiva.com/join or vashiva.com/warrior. And I'll play the video at the end. But I just want to take a quick step to look at this. Look, I know it's in the middle of the afternoon. Some of you may want to come and look at the videos later. God bless you. Great to have you from Southern Wales. Good afternoon. So let me just go back to this. And let me see if I have the application window. Great. Okay. So let me start this up. All right, let me clear it. All right, so let's look at this. So let me see if I can do this for you. It'll give you a quick understanding. You can always share it with your friends. And if you have paper and pen, you're welcome to draw along, okay? Let me bring this up. Let's get a quick setup here. Good. Okay, here we go. All right, so let's look at the anatomy of the establishment from using the metaphor of the eagle. All right, so if you consider this for a second, that we have two sort of levels here. Okay, over here, I'm going to call it the establishment, okay? And opposing that is you over here. And this includes you, your friends, family, etc. Using the metaphor of the eagle, let's consider the eagles here. He's got his little beak here. Got these very aquiline eyes. And you have the eagle here. The eagle now has two wings. One here, or two shoulders. I'm going to use this as the shoulders. And one here. The eagle also, let's put its body here. It's got its talons here. So what I want to consider is the eagle here on its shoulders, if you look at it from a standpoint politically, let's take the left. On the left shoulder of the establishment, what may seem like different is people like, let's say, the Clintons. Over here is the Bidens now, right? The Obamas. And you can put any number of these are what I call the establishment aspects of the establishment elements of the Democratic establishment. So this is, let's call it the Democratic establishment. Similarly, over here on this side, you have the McConnells, Mitch McConnell. You have the Romneys. All right. You have the Murkowskis. This is the this is the Republican wing of the establishment, the Republican establishment. Okay. So you have these, the reason I'm doing them up on the shoulders there is to emphasize that, the establishment is one, which is ahead of the ego, but it's got these two shoulders, which are really the ties to the establishment that are very close to the establishment. So to the people who are on Worry, it looks like these are two different people, but you literally have the Bidens, right? Over here, you have the Clintons, you have the Obamas, and over here, you have the McConnells, you have the Murkowskis, and there could be others, right? There's a whole bunch of people over here that form the Republican wing of the establishment, right? So you can put them over here. They're the Republican wing of the establishment. Now, what's clever that the establishment does, the establishment also has, we're going to talk about the not so obvious establishment. And the purpose of this establishment, if you think about it, if I can bring this down here, right, is to, really bring the masses, which is us here, back into the establishment, okay? And on the left, it has people like Bernie. Well, it has people like Bernie Sanders here. Sanders. It has people like AOC, people like Warren. And what's interesting about these people is they speak a good game, right? They'll talk, over here has the unions. And this wing of the establishment is what I call the left radical, the not so obvious establishment. And the purpose of this establishment, we'll come back to, but here's again, the masses of people out here, which is you. And this is the left not so obvious establishment, the not so obvious establishment, right? Similarly, what we find is on the right now, okay, on the right, we have similarly the not so obvious establishment. And today it includes, you have people like Tucker Carlson. You have people like, now you have people like Trump here. And so on, okay? You could even add, people like Cruz over here. And this is the right radical. And they're really not radical, not so obvious establishment. And the acronym I use for these is the NSOEs. Oh, you have Kennedys over here, okay? Kennedys are sort of here. All right. Let me see if anyone has any other ones they want me to put in there. I hope it's becoming clear who's where, okay? So let me make this a little bit cooler for you guys to see. So what do you guys think? Anyone else? You want to add anyone else? Okay, good. So what you see, and you can apply this to any country, by the way. So you have the key thing to understand is that both wings of the establishment, if I want to put these feathers here, so you have the shoulder aspects, the anatomies here, you have the shoulder, right? The shoulder aspects of the establishment. And the shoulder aspects of the establishment here, this is the obvious establishment, right? So this is the obvious establishment. And the obvious establishment here. But the most compelling part of this is a not so obvious establishment. The not so obvious establishment here on the left and the right, they serve one interesting purpose. Their purpose is the following: to take people and bring them back. Oops, I don't want to use that color. Let me go back. I want to use a purple color because it's best representative here. The purpose of the not so obvious establishment is to take you and to bring you right back into the establishment. Same here. That's the purpose of Trump. Whether he knows it or not, and I think he does know it, but that's the service he has, to bring people back into the establishment. Right? That's the role that these people serve. These people serve the role of taking people and bringing them back to the establishment. The establishment does not want people leaving its clutches. The establishment thrives on people staying within its two-winged establishment, the left and the right, Republican and Democrat. So it has the obvious establishment. Okay, which is the people you see apparently, and they have their struggles, but you find out they actually work together. An example of someone who's an example in the United States, for those of you listening, who's really part of this in a very profound way, who acts, who's actually one with both wings of the establishment. You can think about is someone like, let me just move this over a little bit so people here can see. Okay, there. So one person who's, can everyone see there? Yeah. So one person who's who used to be there, if you want to put him purple, is John McCain. He played the centrist role right there. But what you see here is that the Democrat establishment on the left, the Bidens and the Clintons, that's who will always, those are the designated winners. And over here of the Republican establishment. But what the establishment needs these wings. Okay, it needs these wings on both sides. Why does the establishment need both of those wings? And the important thing to understand is the reason the establishment needs both of those wings is for a very simple reason. The establishment needs both of the not so obvious establishment wings because they know the masses, they know the everyday working person gets more and more angry every year, that they're figuring out things. So they have the not so obvious elements of them to make sure they throw out enough rhetoric. So on the left, Bernie Sanders, is part of the wings of that left establishment. He's not part of the shoulder, but he's part of the wings, exists to say working people, revolution, whatever he'll say. He'll say anything, okay? And by saying anything like that, working people think, wow, Bernie's going to fight for me. Bernie's going to give me free stuff. So Bernie and AOC and Warren, Elizabeth Warren, they're all fakers. In fact, they're worse than the establishment. At least with the establishment, we know where they stand. But for working people, the not so obvious establishment is used to keep their hopes up. It's used to say all the rhetoric. But at the end of the day, what did Bernie Sanders do? When you go back to the diagram, what did Bernie Sanders ultimately do when it came to the elections? Ultimately, what Bernie Sanders and all these guys do is they sell people out, right? So Bernie Sanders' job right here is to bring people back into the Clintons. That's what they do. Their goal is to bring people right back into the establishment on the left and the right. Same thing here. And in fact, they will create a fictitious, fiction as though they're against the establishment, okay? So Bernie will even attack. So for example, over here, if you go right here, Bernie will even say stuff against, the AOCs of the world, right? So this is, let's say, the DNC. And over here is the RNC. Let's put them right here. Okay? He will even say something against the RNC, so a DNC, in the case of Bernie Sanders. But he'll never really get to the heart of the real issues. So Bernie Sanders will say enough against the DNC, so you think that he's really a fighter against them. But at the end of the day, when the primaries end, he bows down to Hillary Clinton. He doesn't create an independent movement. And that's how the left wing of the establishment is used to bring people back to the shoulders of the Democratic aspect of the establishment, be it Biden or Clinton. And if you notice, Bernie and Tulsi Gabbard, I got to put Tulsi Gabbard in here. She's part of this nonsense too, okay? Tulsi Gabbard's right here. Can't forget her. I want to let people get away with, so we don't have any illusions here. But Tulsi Gabbard's right in here, okay? Tulsi. All right. So you have on the left and the right, the establishment politicians who exist to manipulate you back and working people back into the establishment. So the left has their rhetoric. They need the Bernies, etc. And on the right, more recently, who do we see? Trump. Okay. Trump is now saying stuff against the RNC, the rhinos. He's got his own political PAC, right? And he will just say enough, but McConnell's already said he'll support him. Trump has already for 4 years worked with McConnell. They're not any different. They all kissy poo up in the end. Trump is not building an independent bottoms up movement. This is a litmus test. Okay. Neither is Bernie. Bernie had the opportunity, but he doesn't, because back room, they're all one. They talk a good game to keep this dialectic up as though Trump is against the RNC. Remember, Trump supported Ronna McDaniel to become chairman of the RNC. And then Bernie will say stuff against the DNC, but he supports the leadership of the DNC. It's one racket. And the anatomy that I've drawn here perhaps helps you see this. So you have the head, which is the establishment. You have middle people like McCain who play both sides. On the right shoulder, you have Romney's and the McConnells, are the obvious establishment. And then, but the wings of the right establishment now are growing, right? You have the Cruzes, you have the Trumps, right? You have Tucker Carlson. Tucker will act as though he's against the establishment. He'll say stuff against the RNC, but ultimately he's an entertainer. So what you ultimately have on the left and the right, these people are all theater. It's all entertainment. Gore Vidal said, basically politicians are ugly looking actors. That's what he said. He said they're ugly actors, and that's what they are. So you have to understand this dynamic. You have the shoulders of the eagle, which is the obvious establishment, but the wings of the eagle are so necessary. So the Democrat establishment, by the way, needs Trump. The Republican establishment needs Bernie. The Republican establishment needs Trump. The Democrat establishment needs Trump. And what's the purpose of all of this? Exactly. Someone just said, let's put this right up here. They all want us to fight against each other. You nailed it. That's what the purpose is. The purpose is for all of us to fight against each other. And we don't see our way out because on every issue, they make it pro versus anti. They don't ever get to and they extend these issues. So for example, think about something like cancer. Cancer goes on forever. Climate change, pro-climate, anti-climate. No one talks about the goal of reducing pollution. It's pro-Paris Accords, anti-Paris Accords. And that's what they do. And you know what they're doing through all of this? Through all of this, they're saying cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. The RNC sends you out donation requests. Trump sends you out donation requests. Bernie sends you out donation requests. Tulsi Gabbard, they're basically collecting money for their coffers. And these people have no jobs. I mean, I work as a full-time scientist. This is something I do as a public service. Many of you work for a living. You are learning this while you're working. These people's job is to screw you. Their full-time job is to be on the shoulder of the establishment of the eagle or the wings to manipulate you. They got it down to a science. So I hope this helps you understand from a very simple way. It's not the greatest drawing. I mean, you could probably have a better artist do it, but I think you get it, right? You get right here that the establishment basically has these two wings. All right, now, what can we do? The issue is, what do we do? So when you look at this diagram, let's look at what we can do, right? Because it's enough to, now that we understand what is to be done, okay? What is to be done? Well, when you look at this diagram, what do you see here? You see something very interesting, right? Let me bring it up again. The establishment doesn't want us escaping, right? They don't want us leaving them. They don't want us going here, right? All of us. They don't want people over here building up a powerful bottoms-up movement. The opposition to this is the, what's the best color here to use? Let's use this green. Bottoms, oops, let me use this. Bottoms-up movement. They don't want a bottoms-up movement. Keyword is a movement. They don't want a bottoms-up movement. They want centralization. Remember, they thrive on centralization of power. They want centralization. We want decentralization. The key here is to have extraordinary decentralization. All right? So we need to get the hell out, and we need to build a bottoms-up movement. More and more people need to fight against this force and leave, not to leave to another party. Let me be clear. It's not sufficient about going to another party. What we need to do is we need to build a bottoms-up movement. A bottoms-up movement. A bottoms-up movement means, number one, we get it very clear in our head, this eagle metaphor. We get it very clear in our head that the eagle, the wings of the eagle are used. Trump and Bernie. Trump has essentially become the right wing's Bernie, and Bernie is the left wing's Bernie. Okay? And they need Bernie. That's why they keep him around, because he riles young people up, and Trump gets, real hardworking people lined up. And both of these people, the unfortunate thing that we need to understand, both of them are fighting. They're fighting for who? They're fighting for the American working class. They're fighting to manipulate the American working class right here. They want to use people and bring them back into the establishment. And this is what's called, a simple word that I can use, enslavement. That's what they want to do. They want to enslave you by creating on every issue the left-right dialectic while they drink their martinis and have their day and chill out. But this is all theater. And the only way you can understand this clearly is if you take a systems approach. And if you understand that we, as an emerging group bottoms up, we need to build our own independent communities, bottoms up. And then we need to take action independently. Now, in order to do that, we need a technology. We need a science. It's not going to happen overnight. Just like if we want to build a bridge, we have to understand Newton's laws. We have to have steel workers. We have to have people who understand physics. And then you build a bridge. But you have to start with engineering systems theory. If you want to build an airplane, people tried that for many, many years. They tried, they fall off cliffs, their wings break. You've seen all those old movies. But eventually someone understood something called Bernoulli's principle, which was a science. And then we got a plane off 12 seconds, right? And then we got it more. And then we built, now we have restaurants up in the sky. Quite amazing. It came from engineering systems theory. And then the most important thing is it's not just learning all this stuff. It's you have to build community with people, because as you learn, as your consciousness raises, you may find yourselves lonely because you have shifted yourself into a realm where not everyone is caught up to you. It is very, very important at that point to have community of other people, because think about how many nuclear physicists in the world, a few, right? Think about how many people are great carpenters, or few. How many people really understand engineering or science or plumbers? But once you learn that skill set, you get better by communing with others. So once you get this education, you need to commune with other people. So that's the building community piece. And the third piece we need to do is we need to take action locally. locally by becoming leaders in our communities on every issue, be it on the issue of medical freedom, be it on the issue of election integrity. That technology to do that is an educational, integrated system. We need education, we need community, and we need the ability to take action. So that's what I've spent my whole life doing in retrospect, okay? I built email, I built Cytosolve, I built EchoMail, I went to MIT, got all those degrees, but I've always been interested in traditional medicine, integrating that, been interested in science and physics, been interested since an 18-year-old on-the-ground activist raising hell. Wherever I go, ran the Senate campaign, we discovered that they did election fraud. I didn't walk away. We have now 2 lawsuits, but filed, and 2 ones that are the only ones out of all the stuff that Trump did that are still in court and have multiple victories. So what we need to do is we need to take all of that integrative knowledge, is what I've done, systems theory, engineering systems theory, activism, building community, technology, and put it together in a platform. That's what the VA/SHIVA Truth, Freedom, and Health platform is. It's a platform for you to break away from this nonsense, okay? This is what they want us to do. They want us to be involved in this nonsense. This nonsense is slavery, okay? The nonsense is slavery to keep us in their clutches. So what I want to emphasize is when you learn this systems approach, you're going to learn, number 1, the science of systems, which you can't get anywhere else. I've made it. You don't have to go to MIT 20 years. You're going to learn it in about 1 hour. Every Monday evenings I teach this, and then the courses are online. You can get certified. You can yourself become a teacher. 3 hours of your time, you're going to learn the science of systems. Number 2, you're going to have a community. And number 3, we're like at VA/SHIVA, the movement's like a weapons factory. We build technology, we build science, so you can go on the ground and educate people. That's how the world is going to change. It's not going to change from this. No way. Where this is going to lead us is to slavery. And that's what they want. The reason we're here today in this fascism is not because of them. It's because that you didn't have leaders. You didn't have people educating you. The leaders that you thought, the Kennedys and the Sanders and all these people, are all scumbags. It's the only technical term I can use. So let me play this video and I'll come back to show you in a very practical way what we're doing. But all of you, just think about this image here. All of you can draw it now. You can share this with your friends. And you can see again, in summary, the shoulders of that eagle are the obvious establishment. But don't forget the wings. They flap, and there it goes to sucker you back in. And that's what Trump's doing. He's a master at it. Okay? He had 4 years. He brought in Ivanka and Jared. He didn't bring anyone because he didn't, don't tell me he didn't have the time. In the last 4 years is when we were heading towards forced vaccinations, when we had censorship, when we had nothing was really fundamentally done. All of us working people waited. Nothing happened. He was supposed to play 9th dimensional chess. No, he didn't even know how to play chess. Okay? That's where we're at today. All right. So someone's saying, yes. So let me play the video here for you, as I always do, because I want you to listen to this video. If you've heard it once, listen to it again, because it has a lot of very powerful positions here and political theory here. And without that political theory, you will always be taken advantage of. So if you go to vashiva.com/join, again, we have a platform. You can support it. You can contribute, not contribute. You can become a member. But those of you contribute 25 or more, I want to give you the textbook, System and Revolution, that'll educate you. And you can understand how these principles can be used for your own body. Then those of you who want to contribute 100 or more, I thank you very much. But I want you to I want to give you the knowledge to become a truth, freedom, and health warrior. But let me just play the video for you. Many of you have seen it before. Listen again. It's a very powerful and profound video. Here we go.
We have allowed our country to be taken over from within, and the end goal is you will have a homogenized world where we will become slaves, because there is a condition among the elites that really thinks they're better than you. Deep down inside them, that you don't deserve the freedoms you have. They don't. This reality is what people need to wake up to. And we need to all unite working people. There's only one movement that can do that. And that is the movement that we started creating here in Massachusetts, the movement for truth, freedom, and health. Look, I've been a student of politics since I was a 4-year-old kid, studying revolutionary movements, left wing, right wing. There's a physics, there's a nuclear science to destroying the establishment. To build a bridge, you need to understand Newton's equation. You need to understand the laws of gravity. You need to understand Poisson's ratio. There is a way to build a revolution. And that's why I put this together. My goal is to train a army of truth, freedom, and health leaders. We don't need followers like social media. We need leaders, but they need training because the educational system does not teach them history, nothing. So in 3 hours, that's what I've started doing. That's the solution. We got to train people. First, with understanding what a system is. The second is understanding the interconnection between truth, freedom, and health. Freedom is the ability to move freely, communicate freely, right? Talk freely. Without freedom, you cannot convert ideas, hypothesis into truth, which is science. And without freedom, you can't really get to truth. And without truth, you make up fake problems and fake solutions, which means you destroy our health. And without health, which is the infrastructure of us and our body, you can't fight for freedom. Third concept is it has to be bottoms up. Working people, people who work united. And what the right wing has done is whenever you say working people unite, that must be communist. Meanwhile, they've let the Democrats run unions, which suppress workers. Completely corrupt. But when you look at the arc of American history, it's been when working people came up. We need to go local. Every solution I'm coming up with as a part of this movement, we're giving the science, which is the truth, and then we tell people what they can do on the ground. Like with election fraud, you don't need to wait for some lawyer. Our goal is to train people, Dave, to go local, to go local, to go local, fight locally. Forget lawyers, forget politicians, forget celebrities. You've got to learn politics, and there is a science to it. If they lock us down, we should be ready to shut them down. And the fourth part of this principle is a not so obvious establishment. So when you look at a system, there's always something that disturbs you from getting to your goal. Well, the biggest disturbance is a not so obvious establishment, which are those people who claim they're for you, on the left and the right. The Al Sharptons who tell black people I'm for you. The Tucker Carlsons. Do you think any true anti-establishment person will ever be on Fox or CNN? I don't think so. They both mislead working people back into the establishment. Without this solid understanding of political physics and theory, you're screwed. You're going to follow on the left wing, Bernie Sanders. Oh, he said something. Or Robert Kennedy. Scumbags. Or you're going to follow, some right-wing talk show host. They're not going to lead us to liberation. It's us. And that political physics, it's a nuclear science of change. Bottoms up. We have to organize to understand that there is people who talk a good game and then look at what they actually do, left and right. I'm sorry, Sean Hannity may say some good things, but I don't see the urgency in his voice to get something done. And it can only come when you weaponize yourself with the right knowledge. You need to be able to identify a rat. Christ didn't go after the Romans, right? It was the Pharisees and the Sadducees who screwed him up. His own quote unquote people. And that's where we're at. So these four concepts I've built into a curriculum. People can go to vashiva.com, and it's an educational program. We need to train people in political theory. You need to have physics, and I've created that curriculum. People need to get educated. We need to get educated fast. And within a half an hour, I can teach people. 2 years of MIT control systems, I teach people those concepts. Then I apply it. Anyone can understand it. And then you say, oh, I got to build a bottoms-up movement. They have to get politically astute, and then they have to go locally and act, not sit there on social media. They have to act locally, defy locally, do civil obedience locally, but with knowledge on how to build a movement. And the Senate campaign's expanded to the Movement for Truth, Freedom, and Health, and they can find it on V as in Victor, A, Shiva, vashiva.com, so people can sign in. They can get access to a bunch of videos. If they want to take a course and become a Truth, Freedom, and Health leader, I offer a full scholarship there. But we want people to make a commitment that they'll study, that they'll get certified, that they'll go do activities on the ground. So go to VA Shiva, Victory America Shiva, vashiva.com.
So anyway, I hope that helps. What I want to now finish up is, again, those of you who just joined, what we just covered here just now was the anatomy of the eagle. And it's a systems approach to really look at it. It's a pretty sort of a funky looking diagram, but I'll just walk through it again for those of you who are new and then summarize. And then I just want to show you the tools that we have. But the first thing is, you notice you have the head of the establishment on top right here. Okay. Those of you who just came in, just zoom it out for people here. Okay. We have the head of the establishment, which is represented by the eagle's head. And they're all about centralization of power. But you have the two shoulders of the establishment, which are very close to the head. One is a Democratic establishment on the left here, and you have the Republican establishment on the right. And these are what I call the obvious wings of the establishment. Obvious wings, okay? That is very sometimes hard to understand, but these are the obvious wings of the establishment. The obvious wings here, right? The obvious wings right here. And over here, you have the obvious wings too, okay? These are the obvious wings of the establishment. The left and the right have it. But the establishment, as we talked about, this is the hard thing that many people find it's difficult for a lot of people to appreciate, because, and this is the reason that no change takes place and suffering continues, because people get suckered. They're suckers for the not so obvious wings. They'll say, well, you know, he said a lot of things. Bernie's a nice guy. Trump did this, da, da, da. Well, we should actually look at what they actually did. And you'll see what's happened today for working people. For them, they did stuff to perpetuate the left-right dialectic. They did stuff, but average work, the actual unemployment rate in the United States is 25%. That's what it actually is. The actual infrastructure in the United States, according to the American Society of Civil Engineers, is a D. A D. Massachusetts, a center of supposedly science and technology, got an F minus minus. So I'm telling you facts. So you get your head out of, you know what, to think, well, Trump did all this, Bernie and Elizabeth Warren. No, they didn't do anything when you look at the grand scheme of things. What we've seen is a subjugation of the American working class. Okay? That's what's happened. That's fundamental. And the left and the right do this, and they do it in a repeated, very powerful way. So when you look at this situation right here, if I go back to the wings of this, if we go back to the wings of this right here, and I hide this and this, you can see that the wings of the establishment right here, Bernie and Warren and AOC, they talk their good game. You know, they'll talk rhetoric about the working people, and there goes to sucker us right back right into the establishment. That's the job. The job is to sucker you, make you suckers, okay? So you get sucked right back into the wings of the establishment, right? Right back into the wings. Right back into the wings, as you can see right here. This is a job right here, Bernie, Elizabeth Warren, etc. Sucker us. Ultimately, they serve the shoulder of the establishment, and McConnell and Murkowski and Romney's are the ones who own this. They may sound outwardly, okay? They keep the dialectic going, right? AOC writes, you know, against the DNC, or Trump is against RNC, but cha-ching, 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 they're making money all the way. And even if they were, quote unquote, stupidly sincere, okay? Let's assume Trump is stupidly sincere. If you want to give that to him, which I don't believe he is, okay? If you want to even give that as a stupid sincerity, the ultimate goal is he nor Bernie will never build an independent movement. Trump said, I will not start an independent party, right? And I'm not even saying the party is the right way, but they do not want to get their fingers dirty. Billionaires and people who live in Vermont who are couch surfers, who wrote erotic novels like Bernie and failed, they do not want to get on the ground and build a bottoms-up movement. It's too much freaking work. The only people that do it is a working class. Bottoms up, bottoms up, bottoms up, bottoms up. And in order to do that, it's not going to occur for us. And I can tell you this from as an engineer, it's not going to happen without infrastructure. We need a bottoms-up movement. We need and we need action. So what the video I just shared with you gives you the overview. But independent of that, instead of just sort of sitting around talking about it, we have created the infrastructure for you, and it's evolving and it's growing, but it'll serve you. It's here to serve you. So if I go back to VA Shiva, I want all of you to become truth, freedom, and health warriors. And if you're not ready for that, you know, you can start it wherever way you want. But when you support the movement, you can just support by signing up. You don't have to pay any money. But when you support the movement in any way possible, anyone who gives $25 or more, I want to give you the book and the software, and then you start learning the courses. But more importantly, when you log in, I'm going to log in with one of the IDs here, you get access to a dashboard. This is on our infrastructure. It's not on Amazon. It's not on Jeff Bezos's infrastructure. It is on our infrastructure. So, so on this infrastructure, first of all, you get access to all of these courses. In fact, what I'm going to do is very quickly, if you just wait 1 second, I think I have another good diagram that really shares this well. It's a little bit better than this. Here we go. I did it in our radiation talk yesterday. Let me bring it up. because I think it does a better job of sharing with you all the tools that we have. Okay. All right. So let's talk about this here. So when you go into the site, the first thing is that the entire program is founded on a model. Let me go right here. Okay. So I think I can share this with everyone here. All right. I'm going to come back here, so it'll make it a little bit easier for everyone. But when you log in, you get access to a whole range of tools. So let me share the screen here. Go right here. Yeah. So when you, by the way, the Foundations of Systems course is a course that took me almost 30, 40 years to build. This course will provide you literally the foundations of systems theory. It's an integration of engineering systems theory, medical theory, et cetera. But you will understand this diagram, which is really the science of everything. And then you will have opportunities to go right online and log in, like I just shared with you, and you get access to a whole bunch of education. And our slogan is get educated or be enslaved. First of all, you get the book, and you get the Your Body, Your System. Anyone who comes in as a supporter gets all of that. And then you get access to a portal where you can help others, educate others. You get access to the entire course. You get access to scientific reports. For example, these are 2 from Cytosolve. You get then access to a whole set of other books, 3 more books. And then on top of that, you get access to the scientific paper, which will give you the theory of the science of systems. This entire thing is for those people who want to become truth, freedom, health warriors and do $100 or more. But for that, we want people to not feel alone. You get community. You get access to the forum. On the educational forum, people can literally create their own groups. They can start conversations on all sorts of issues, controversial issues, without fear of big tech. You can also go into the social media. You can create your own page. This is for our truth, freedom, and health warriors. You can just very much like the Facebook equivalent. And then you can get activated. For example, here are the vaccine cards, we call them. These little cards are potent weapons. The weaponry here directs people to a larger site where you have all the research on masks, but you can hand these out to your friends or your family or colleagues, building awareness of the risks of masks. The back of it gives the science and the public health implications, particularly of what masks do to oral health. Similarly on vaccines, we want people to go beyond vax, anti-vax, and again, gives them the science and the public health and drives them to that page. So I want to share that with you because this is not just a platform. I want you guys to be able to look at a system. We teach you how to understand relationships and interconnections so you can build a bottoms-up movement in your local community. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the elections, how to build that. We have a whole thing back to the immune system. We want to teach people. I'm going to do a detailed talk today on going beyond simple antibodies. So when you take a systems approach, it's not just the antibody. There's a whole bunch of things that are beyond the antibodies that we need to support to build real immunity. Those guys, okay, the establishment, left and right, pro-vax, anti-vax, all they're talking about is antibodies, antibodies, antibodies. They don't want to teach you to boost the immune system. That's what's going on. So a systems approach is a way, but you must become a truth, freedom, and health warrior. You're not going to get this education anywhere else. It took me 40 years. It's here. We've made it extremely accessible. And when you support this movement, you get more and more education, you get community. But the goal is we need to build a decentralized movement. Forget these parties. You are the force. You are the Jedi Knight. And that needs to happen locally. In many ways, I'm a mere catalyst here, providing you the tools. We're like the educational weapons factory. But you are ultimately the soldiers. You're ultimately the Jedi Knights. And that's what we need you to do. Thank you, everyone. I hope this helped you. I hope this helped you understand what to do, okay? So you could get a deep understanding of what is to be done. A very clear path. Become a truth, freedom, and health warrior. Thank you. God bless you.